Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My informed fam, today we got a special episode. You figure smell me? If you've been following the journey, this episode is the 10th episode. A monumental moment for us at the local social. A win is a win. Every win, big or small, is a win for me. I don't know about you, but I've made some progress. We took y'all on some rides. Y'all went with us to Davos, to the belly of the blob, HQ if you will. We've been seeing the powers that be and how they move. And if you've been here, you've been picking up some of the things that I've been putting down. And hopefully I've helped you see something different, because that's what this is about. This is about helping you detect the propaganda that is afoot, that has run amok. But anyway, let's talk about the local social and how we define the ethos. It's the community culture made manifest. So what is the community culture manifested? It's we're gonna live our lives how we want to being spelled T-E-W. It's this generation's way of saying, I'ma do it my way, because everybody else seemed to do it their way and still fuck up. And we're smarter than y'all was when y'all was doing it when y'all was our age. So that's why we're here. Why y'all think I'm doing this? I'm late to the party. I wanted to say that because that's why it's called the ethos. Because we wanted to showcase the community's culture and make manifest what's really going on in the mainstream media. We wanted to show the dichotomy in the game that the media has been playing and continues to play. We wanted to show its politics, and it's not just the government. This is a worldwide thing, and it's been this way for some time now, so that we can come to a shared understanding of where we are in the world really, to help you on your journey, if you're on a journey, to offer community, so you can feel connected to like minds, so we can think freely, because that C-19 bomb really broke the collective spell and changed all of this. And they acting like it didn't. Acting like it didn't break the spell is why I wanted to start off with it, because it's the foundation of our shared experience of being able to identify the truth, which is why
it's a genre.
You heard? You feel me? Shout outs to Marla, Boo, Hannah. Yo, she's from the Bronx, man. She's from PC, man. Stand Up BX. This new genre created off the back of the new normal called propaganda satire. Cause that's the point it's got to, where let's make fun of it. I want to make jokes. I want to laugh. It's been here. But let's hope people identify it, because that's the game that's being played right now. Propaganda. Because if people see this on the internet, what I'm talking about, this is not my actual opinion. These are just jokes. Didn't we learn that from Dave Chappelle? That's why Chappelle didn't get canceled, because it was just jokes about the truth. Laugh out loud. Yo, shout outs to Dave, because it's not gonna stop until enough of the right people are made aware of it. Or they're just gonna keep doing what they're doing unchecked, and we're just gonna be made comfortable with looking at it, because that's better than managed reality, because at least we can address our societal issues. But on the Pharisees, on a happier note, thank you to the 10 people that watched the show. I appreciate y'all. Really, I do. We got much more in store. We're just getting started. So let's get into what we got coming up. We gonna have interviews. Yo, I'm gonna be talking to people. You know what I'm saying? I'll be making these jokes in front of somebody's face. We got interviews with creatives and influencers, and how social media has impacted their lives. We got local eats, where we go to local restaurants and we see how social media has impacted their lives and their business. We're gonna be updating y'all. We will be updating our website so you can get all the facts and reports on the new news, so you can double check what we're talking about and get the source of the information. The resource, look out for that on the local social. Look out for local social on social media and in your neighborhood. If you see me in the streets, say what up. I need you to remember, the last free place is your mind. They can't control what you think. Let's get into today's episodes. Yo, elites fight. What is the state of the union right now? We got some breaking news from the FBI. They want all your data, and they gonna get it easy peasy lemon squeezy. We got Fox News on our side of the media manipulation. I wonder. We got our girl Brianna Joy Gray shadow boxing the blob. Eric, you're not the only one fighting on that metaphorical hill. Let's get into today's episode.
In his 1862 State of the Union address, Abraham Lincoln said, "We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth." Those words came just weeks after what was known as the bloodiest day in American history, the Battle of Antietam, where 23,000 Americans were slaughtered. There was weight to Lincoln's words. He was Honest Abe. In 1941, Franklin Roosevelt articulated America's 4 essential human freedoms: freedom of speech, religion, and freedom from want and fear. FDR urged Americans to defend democracy in war-torn Europe. These presidents used their words not to scare Americans for political gain, but to mobilize Americans to meet the moment. Last night, President Biden didn't have the courtesy to arrive on time to the State of the Union. And once inside the chamber, he milked the political affection, inching ever so slowly to the podium, refusing not a single selfie from embarrassingly childish politicians, stopping and entertaining long conversations, and basking in the pageantry and attention. There was something grotesquely pathetic about grown men and women of the president's own party pawing at him as if he had real talent. It was as if, like, the Democrats had never spent time with their president, like he'd come out of hibernation and showed proof of life. They don't see him at the Christmas party or the Easter egg roll. They don't meet with him about legislation. Maybe they wanted to capture the moment on camera when they met the greatest president of all time, because that's who Joe Biden compared himself to: a combination of Abraham Lincoln and FDR. Biden declaring himself a wartime president, saying he's saving democracy at home and abroad, just like America did in the Civil War and in World War II.
Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation.
Here we go. First and foremost, this is Fox, you heard? You know many of us don't really watch Fox, even though the brown people I know don't watch TV at all, because around 46% of Americans don't watch the news, according to Pew Research. Yeah, I got these statistics stuck in my head after I've been doing all of this Ethos research. So this is on Fox, which is type crazy. But what's even more crazy is they got Biden with the top hat on and smoke coming out his ears. It's type funny. He's comparing himself to good old Abe Lincoln and FDR. I don't know if y'all know any esoteric information about good old Abe and FDR. Esoteric meaning hidden information. That's not so public. But good old honest Abe and FDR, those are 2 actual presidents that had some significance to the agenda of the blob. You see, while Lincoln was in office, he signed the bill for the 14th Amendment, and FDR is responsible for taking away our bling blow. That's the goal, actual money that the American people had. It's just a little tidbit, but my question is, why did Biden pick those 2 presidents? I don't know, maybe it's a coincidence. See, that's the question. Is it just a coincidence? Nah, it ain't just a coincidence, it's planned. You see, the blob, they don't play around about stuff like this. They be dead ass. Remember dead ass? It might be political theater on one side, but also we gotta tell you the whole story, because how you're gonna know what role you play in it.
And he said, I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time.
Listen to what Biden got to say.
We will not walk away. We will not bow down.
Biden framed this election not as a political campaign, but as a military campaign. Just as Hitler and the Confederacy were defeated, Putin and Trump will also be. This is how Biden's positioning himself. He will defeat Trump, the enemy of the state.
Yo, I'm not sure if you heard my man Sleepy Joe, right? The only place that freedom is being opposed is at home. It's from you guys. You guys just banned TikTok from basically freedom of speech. It's because you guys can't control TikTok or social media. You have to censor it and you want to ban it. So where are you protecting democracy? I thought democracy was... Huh? That's what I thought, right? Because they changed the definition. This is what I'm talking about. I want you guys to pay attention. Look alive, man. We here. It's the 10th episode. We got stuff to talk about.
I ask all of you, without regard to party, to join together and defend democracy.
Now it's on Fox, and that's understandable, why we're getting the opposed view. But I also want you to ask the question, why? Why now? And do we actually believe it?
Remember your oath of office to defend against all threats, foreign and domestic.
Even liberal historians thought it was a bit too much.
This is the number one issue for Joe Biden, that he represents democracy. In some ways, and it might be overdone a little by Biden, he's positioning himself as being the indispensable man. I'm Abraham Lincoln. Beyond me lies authoritarianism and fascism.
Biden is democracy just like Fauci is science. Anybody who disagrees is the enemy and will be treated as such.
Yeah, I don't just ask that. Who's the domestic threat? You! You're the domestic threat. The people are the domestic threat. The average American. Remember when you took your mask off and they said you was a threat to your neighbor? Yeah, it's happening right in front of you. Right in front of your face on Capitol Hill.
This was not your typical State of the Union, with memorable presidential prose, soaring oratory that gives you goosebumps. Biden just screamed for an hour to prove he's still alive.
America stood strong and democracy prevailed. We stopped you 50 times before.
It will be. Jesse is cooking him over there. We gotta join the fun.
We'll stop you again.
Kamala's over there standing behind him like,
I'm gonna stick beside him.
I'ma stick beside him.
I say stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Send me the border bill now. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Those bragging about overturning Roe v. Wade have no clue. When America gets knocked down, we get back up. We keep going. That's America. God bless you all.
Now, as a student of human behavior, when I observe wild and sudden changes in energy levels, something's been added to the mix. This man's moped around the White House for 3 years, lethargic, neither an early bird or a midnight owl. Someone who struggles to finish a sentence and falls asleep in public. You go from a 1 to a 10. Even the Washington Post wants Biden to pee in a cup to test for steroids.
The union is a perfect example of the two sides. See, but not always are the two sides visible, even to the participants of the two sides. But today, we getting a front row view of the elites fighting. The Washington Post is saying Biden needs to pee in a cup. Could you imagine if the news outlets was saying you need to pee in a cup? Yo, they going off on my man Sleepy Joe. He don't deserve that. He does. He does deserve it, actually. Y'all gotta remember who the Washington Post is, the New York Times, and what they was saying. We need to protect the narrative. It's one of the points when we own the facts. Now ask yourself this question. Why is this narrative? Why is this the narrative? The one that we're going with now? I wonder.
Joe needed to show intensity to prove the Her report wrong, and he just yelled at everyone. The Supreme Court, businesses, Republicans, and Trump over and over and over again.
Whoo! Calling Joe Biden old yeller. Yo, the writer's room at Fox, they going dumb. They over there shaking their dreads, yo. They wildin'.
Yeah.
My predecessor, my predecessor, my predecessor, but unlike my predecessor.
Unlike my predecessors, you see, I don't know if y'all know about that, but old school gangsters, they talk like that in the film. Nah, see? They talk, nah, see? Yeah, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna kill you, see? Bang, bang.
I know who we are as Americans.
This was a primetime attack ad that the Biden campaign should have been required to pay networks to air. He delivered a convention speech masquerading as statesmanship. If Trump was this wickedly partisan at a State of the Union, they would have cut the feed. Abortion, class warfare, big government tax and spend, welfare handouts. It was zany.
Yo, shout outs to the writer's room. I haven't heard anybody use the word zany. So remember I told you about the words, right? I got a little stuff that I do that it's practices of how I write and how I do things. So I take a word and I use it in a sentence, or I try to use it in my world, in my life, in my everyday life. Zany, they going dumb over there.
He even spent more time talking about snacks than fentanyl.
The snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer.
Fentanyl is actually killing people. Fentanyl is plaguing the people at this time right now. And for the president not to mention it, it just goes to show you where the State of the Union actually is. Because people are more concerned about getting raped by stores that's continuing to rape us. They've been raping us. Inflation has everybody bent over. But the fentanyl crisis is actually a bigger issue than Biden talking about snacks. Jesse is cooking him, okay? Jesse got Biden on the stove like this. Yo, Jesse's roasting him. I'm asking you guys, why is Jesse out now? Because it's election year? Because they want Sleepy Joe out of here?
Same size bag. Put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. You probably all saw that commercial on Snickers bars.
We need a body language experts to get all these episodes that we've been having, because look at Kamala's smiles and look at this guy with the red tie. His face looks crazy. Kamala's holding back laughs and this guy is disgusted on the other end. Biden's continuing to shuck and jive about this stupid speech. He's in the union talking about shrinkflation and chips. Y'all dead ass.
You get charged the same amount and you got about, 10% fewer Snickers in it.
Shrinkflation is what he's talking about. We at war. We're at war. Biden just sent how much money to Ukraine and Russia? And the State of the Union, he's talking about shrinkflation. We think it's about to be World War III, and Biden is talking about shrink. He's talking about them cheating on bags of chips, and he's going to do something about it. Biden is such an American, and he wants to make sure all Americans have the right amount of chips in their bags. He's going to do something about it. Yeah, buddy. What's that song? America, America, F-O-H. Ha ha ha, very funny, motherfucker.
Biden never once acknowledged American hardship, never consoled, only spun. It got so bad that at one point, a Gold Star father interrupted. Watch.
Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30%.
Sorry to that family.
They went up. The biggest increase in history.
That man lost his son, a Marine, during Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal. It was just too much for him to stay silent. The president hasn't even called some of the parents who lost their sons that day.
He has not reached out to our family. We've actually reached out to the White House and have never heard back. We asked to meet with them to kind of understand where their thinking was in calling this a success, and we've not received a response. It's been months.
The commander-in-chief had 13 phone calls to make, and he couldn't do it. He just checks his watch as the coffins come home.
You only had 13 phone calls to make, and all he can do is check his watch. And he just waits for the coffins to come home. It's somebody over there that missed their calling as a screenwriter, as a poet, because this what? Y'all said that on the news? Y'all need to come over here. Listen, whoever said that, listen, man, my email, y'all can find my email somewhere, man. We could talk.
Biden was interrupted again when he blamed Trump for his border crisis. Earlier, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had handed Biden a pin with Laken Riley's name on it. And 45 minutes into the speech, still without mentioning her name, this happened.
I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Lincoln Riley. Biden doesn't even know her name. He couldn't even read it off the pin. His callous dismissiveness towards American suffering is sociopathic, considering the man's lost his own children to car accidents and cancer. Biden's policies are producing Gold Star moms and angel moms, and he can't even call them or get their names right. Laken Riley's mom writing this, quote, Biden does not even know my child's name. It's pathetic. If you are going to say your name, even when forced to do so, at least say the right name. If President Trump had called George Floyd Jim Floyd, those riots wouldn't have been so mostly peaceful.
I want you to understand the artful deception that is at play. Peaceful riots. Peaceful riots. Yes, we are watching him go in on Sleepy Joe, but facts. peaceful riots as Little Big Shrimp. They don't exist as an oxymoron. The words completely go against each other. And when that happens, you know what happens in the mind. It's a thing called cognitive dissonance. I said it like 4 or 5 times already. We're gonna keep talking about it because propaganda.
Biden's selfish at his core. He spent 40 years climbing the precipice of Washington until he finally reached the pinnacle of power. He's failed up, believes he's a hero, and says anything to survive. He even made up a fake civil war to scare the country and stay in charge. But the real civil war inside his own party. And last night was a cannon shot to signal he has the gunpowder to wage a brutal battle for what he calls the soul of the nation. Who knows where that gunpowder came from? But we warned you. Biden believes he's a wartime president and is ready to take whatever action necessary to defend the country from you, the enemy.
Now let's get into how the FBI and the government wants your data. Big whoop. Guess this is the news, Shirley. This is where we at again. We're here. More data. More ways the government's taking your data.
We'll start with opening statements, then move into our witnesses. The chair now recognizes himself for an opening statement. Big government was colluding with big tech to censor Americans. That's the first thing we learned. But now it's big government colluding with big banks and big business to spy on everything Americans buy, every place they go, everything they do.
Do we still have privacy in America? I wonder.
Big government wants your financial data because it's full of sensitive information about you. Our investigation started when an FBI whistleblower, George Hill, came forward and talked to the committee. Mr. Hill was supervisory intelligence analyst at the FBI up in the Boston field office, told the committee that the FBI got information from Bank of America. Specifically, it received a list of any customer who made purchases in the Washington, D.C. area January 5th through 7th, 2021. The whistleblower's supervisor, special agent in charge of the Boston field office, Mr. Bonavolanta, corroborated Mr. Hill's testimony when he spoke to the committee. And so did Steve Jensen, the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Operations Section Chief. But it wasn't just purchase data around a specific date that the FBI got from Bank of America. That was actually also overlaid with any firearm purchase at any time. And how did the FBI get this information? They asked for it. In fact, you can see on the display on the screen here the email that was sent. The FBI told Bank of America, to recap our morning call, we are prepared to action immediately the following threshold: customers confirmed as transacting business in Washington, D.C. between these specific dates. So if you're in Washington, D.C., visiting your kids, maybe visiting your aunt, or maybe just a friend, the FBI wanted to know about every single purchase you made. And if you're a gun owner, look out, you're going to the top of the list. For simply exercising your Second Amendment right, you're on the FBI's target list.
Talking about when I said terrorist, foreign, and domestic, he was talking about, drum roll please. He was talking about me and you. He was talking about regular citizens that were in D.C. at the time. You had a gun legally, the government needs to know about it. But guess what? We're tracking you. They need to know because you're a goddamn terrorist. You're a terrorist. Yeah, that's what he just said. You're a terrorist. And we need to know why we're having this chat about it right now. Excuse me. I beg your pardon? I didn't even do nothing. I'm just getting a bag of chips in D.C. this weekend, and my name got caught up in this web of information being transferred over.
Never forget, the federal government got this information without any process. No warrant, and frankly, no notification. The bank didn't tell the customer that we're handing this information over to the FBI, the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world. Now, these FBI agents, Mr. Hill, Mr. Bonavolanta, Mr. Jensen, they all said this was wrong and, in fact, sent the information back to FBI headquarters in D.C. So that's how our investigation began. But since then, and we continue to investigate, but since then, we've learned that the financial surveillance was broader and there was actually a specific objective. The federal government is building profiles on the American people. And the profile isn't based on criminal conduct, it's based on political beliefs. And if you got the wrong political beliefs, well, you're potentially a domestic violent extremist.
Again, more proof that according to the government, if you don't agree with them, you're an enemy and you don't actually have to do anything. You just I don't agree with y'all. Didn't say anything about crime, didn't say anything about these people's background, if they actually committed a crime, if they did anything wrong. They just didn't agree, fundamentally, that the government shouldn't have as much control as they have. You are the public enemy. Those words are artful deception that they use on us. We're just trying to help you guys, you know? We're just trying to help the people be clear because they're not going to be clear even though we just watched the speech about the State of the Union talking about these threats, foreign and domestic. The domestic threat being you, he was talking about during the State of the Union, confirmed by the FBI saying right now, we're talking about what Biden said.
Now, how are they actually doing this? What are the mechanics of this? There's this entity we've discovered called the Domestic Security Alliance Council, kind of Orwellian in sound and title, the DSAC.
The Domestic Security Alliance Council is the agency that's collecting your data, and I don't know what this congressman's name is, but he describes it as Orwellian. Do y'all know who Orwell is? But George Orwell is a science fiction writer, a science fiction author whose science fiction of the last 2 decades is about Big Brother. You can't talk about Big Brother. Big Brother is the police state where the government knows everything and they watch you and they watch everything that you do.
And this is an entity where the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, works with 650 of the largest companies in the world. These companies have to do over $1 billion in revenue a year. They represent 2/3 of the gross domestic product of the United States economy. And they work through this controlled access portal. We'll put that on the screen here. What are they sharing in this secret portal? Well, we're not exactly sure because it's secret. But we do know that they share some information, share reports. And one of the reports we got, called a liaison information report, said this: any American who opposes firearm legislation, the easing of immigration restrictions, and COVID mandates is someone banks should be watching because, again, they might be an extremist. Now stop and think about that for a second.
Wow, how time is flying. Next up, this clip we got Brianna Joy Gray, aka B Joy G on IG. Shout outs to her and sorry for her misfortune or her newfound opportunity between this taping that we're about to show you and now. The Hill has let Miss Brianna Joy Gray go because of her hot take on the Israeli issue going on. Check out this clip where our girl Brianna, formerly of the metaphorical Hill, you see that you can't bring that hood nuance there. They're not gonna appreciate it over there. They're not gonna know how to handle you with stuff like this.
All right, Brianna, what's on your radar?
Well, Robbie, if outright lies are a sign of a movement in desperation, then the pro-Zionist movement might be cooked.
Yeah, Brianna, it seems that you don't know who's in charge. You don't know that you cannot bark up Ziblob tree. You ain't know that? And it's really horrible that you gotta go through these ups and downs to understand that this is the fight. This is the battle being fought right now. This isn't a hot war where people are dying. There is a war going on and it's for your mind. Only certain opinions can be spoken and only certain views can be showcased. We are going to get one side, and if you talk against that side on any platform, people listen to you. You will be out of here. And sure enough, between the time that we pulled this and this taping, my good sis is going from the Hill.
As you know, for months, the media has been working in overdrive to downplay atrocities committed by Israel against Palestinians, while credulously endorsing unsubstantiated and since disproven stories about, say, 40 beheaded babies, mass rapes on October 7th, and Hamas headquarters under now destroyed hospitals. A leaked New York Times internal memo revealed that journalists are discouraged from using the words genocide, ethnic cleansing, occupied territory, refugee camps, or even the word Palestine at the New York Times. And a quantitative analysis by The Intercept conducted back in January showed that Palestinians were mentioned less in the news the more the death toll mounted.
How she said it? She's cooked. My good sis, they definitely smoked your boots over there. And it's all good, you feel me? You're gonna bounce back because you're good at what you do. And you're nice to look at and all that. I'm sure you're gonna have another job on TV. You'll be fine.
And words like slaughter and massacre were used 60 times more when referring to Israelis versus Palestinians, even as the Palestinian death toll reached tens of thousands.
And we're back, and she is bringing the Fiznayaks. You see that she said Palestine's names were mentioned less? The more death is mounted? Does that sound right? Does that sound like they're managing the death toll, thereby fixing it in your head in a certain way, thereby managing your reality? Doesn't it sound like that? How they're trying to manage how you perceive it? Because you wouldn't think that the more people died, the more they talk about it. Yeah, that's how you would think it would go normally. But it's not gonna go like that because propaganda. So how does that make sense? How does that make sense to use more descriptive words for Israelis, and the Israelis' death toll is not as high as the Palestinian death toll? Isn't that managing reality? When you describe the Israeli side as being more horrific when they die, but when the Palestinians die, it isn't as bad. It's not as horrific. Even though that death in general is horrific. So it's either these people, you hear me saying these people because the Palestinians, they come in the brown variety. And I'm saying these people, the Palestinians, they don't deserve the same humanity as Israelis, because that would be the message if more descriptive words are used when you die versus these people. It's just for you to take and sit back and go, isn't that something?
New reporting from E. Alex Jung in the New York Magazine details how the ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt openly lobbied MSNBC for more pro-Israel coverage, saying right on Morning Joe, out in the open, who was writing the scripts? Hamas?
I know as I cover some of this news and media, it's very sensitive and it's really wild and crazy that he has like a sense of humor about where he's making jokes about it. I know these are sensitive topics, but we have to be able to take information as it is. He said, who's writing the script for the news station? Hamas? It's wild. The caucasity of it all. To talk that way, to ask, is Hamas writing in the newsroom?
And he was successful. As one employee told Jung, everyone put the screws to NBC and MSNBC to change the tenor of our coverage. Another employee told him that around October 7th, context was not welcome. Context was a bad word.
Context felt completely forbidden inside MSNBC. That's kind of crazy when the news is supposed to be unbiased and not be picking a side. But because we're not in this war, we don't got a dog in this fight. So why would we be picking a side unless you know something? APAC. APAC.
Empathy for Palestinians felt forbidden inside MSNBC.
Empathy for Palestine feeling forbidden inside a work environment would be considered a hostile work environment just for showing empathy for people dying. This is where we are. So when Brianna gets fired from her job for covering it, and when you work at MSNBC and you can't even empathize with people that are dying at war, forget where they're from. This is war and death, and we can't empathize with people experiencing that war and that death at MSNBC. Yeah, this is where we are, and it's a real thing. She's covering it, and she won't be able to cover it anymore because of this.
Yet despite these feats of media engineering, the public still overwhelmingly supports a permanent ceasefire in Gaza and conditioning military aid to Israel, even if Biden doesn't. This media battle may in part have motivated the TikTok ban, which successfully passed the Senate yesterday. All that's left now is for Biden to sign it into law. Authoritarianism isn't something to fear if Trump is reelected. It's already here.
Authoritarianism, socialism, Marxist, any of these words all mean the same thing. They all mean the little guy gets squashed, you get stomped on, and the rich gets richer. This is what it means. It means you're gonna get stomped on. It means big government. It means big brother. And you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to wait for the dystopian future. It's happening right now. This is why we sounding the alarm. This is why you keep hearing me say the last free space is your mind. They can't control what you think. It's because now you can't speak freely on the internet. So if you can't speak freely on the internet, what's next? Y'all remember that movie Minority Report where the technology allowed them to see crimes before it happened? This is where we at, where you commit a crime and you're gonna go to jail before you actually committed the crime, just because you might do it.
Biden and Trump, establishment Democrats and Republicans alike, have backed the ban, and they're not being discreet about why they're so fond of it. Take a listen to NYU professor Scott Galloway blaming pro-Palestine protests on TikTok.
What might sound paranoid doesn't mean I'm wrong. I think we are being manipulated, specifically youth, to their frame for the world is TikTok. And if you look at TikTok, there are 52 videos that are pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian for every one served on Israel. I think that we are being manipulated. I think Americans are easier to fool than convinced they've been fooled. But if I were the CCP, I'd be doing exactly the same thing.
And I used to jack Professor G sometimes. But yeah, we could see what side you're on because Brianna just ran some numbers that say opposite of what you're saying. So is TikTok reality being managed and is pro-Hamas? Meanwhile, the people on TikTok aren't experiencing pro-Hamas content. Crazy.
This is America.
This is America. Yeah, that's where we are. Where people will come on a given network, and I'm not gonna say he's lying, but he's not giving me the same information that we've just been presented. And why is that? Why is there so much opposing data? Kind of strange in the information age where you can Google one thing and get a direct answer, and then if you reword it, get it something completely different. It's funny that way. And you think we're only being manipulated on TikTok? So you think that the youth is being manipulated on TikTok, and the news that the youth are receiving is pro-Palestine. That's what you think? Meanwhile, this girl, this nice, very chocolatey girl, just got fired for covering that news. Maybe not a month later after she covered it, and you think that they're being manipulated on TikTok by the CCP. Okay, got you. Got you, Professor G. Got you.
He's not the only one. Fox News hosted a TikTok star with 1 million followers who, ostensibly against his own interest, also supports a ban because Hamas.
You really have seen since October 7th especially, the algorithm seems to have taken a bit of an ominous turn. I mean, you're really seeing Gen Z become Gen T, Gen terrorism. And I say that not just as a joke, but as a reality.
So when I say they put people in front of you that are paid spokespersons for that agenda, this is what I mean. A TikTok star that got over 1 million followers on TikTok. He got an Instagram. He got like 50. I looked him up on Instagram. He got like 50K on Instagram or something like that. But his bread and butter's on TikTok. And he's all for the ban because TikTok users are messing up the algorithm. They making the algorithm more pro-Hamas, and it's violent. It's become a violent place. TikTok has become a violent place for Mr. Zachary. Listen, Zach, I'm from the hood. In the hood, we don't judge you how you hustle. How you get your money is how you get your money. We respect it. But you don't gotta lie about it. You see? You acting like Tommy from Martin where he says he's getting a paycheck and this man ain't got no job. Where you getting a paycheck from? Mr. Zachary? How are you rich? If they taking away your bread and butter, meanwhile you on the news talking about you okay with it. How are you okay with it? Unless you're getting paid to be okay with it. You know what I'm talking about? Unless you're getting paid to be okay with it. However, get your money how you get your money, you heard? But we gonna talk about it. Do you know why? Propaganda.
Of course, that is not reality. Gen Z doesn't support terrorism or Osama bin Laden, as he later claims in that clip. But social media did allow Osama bin Laden's 2001 Why I Did It letter to finally be read widely, decades after it had been suppressed by Western media. And folks too young to remember 9/11 learned what many of us who were old enough to know better had forgotten or buried. That bin Laden cited U.S. support for, quote, the oppressive Israelis and their occupation of our Palestine as a motive for the 9/11 attacks.
I beg your pardon, Brianna. You just said that bin Laden put out a letter citing that 9/11 happened because of the oppressive Israeli regime. Wow, that's really crazy. That's really crazy that America would support bin Laden. He was a CIA operative, yeah. Does that make sense to you guys? That they would oppose it on one side to cause a war, and after they caused the war, act like they didn't oppose it and act like they wasn't on bin Laden's side after 20 years later, America's like this? That's not true, but it is. It's right here in the letter.
The kids aren't supporting Osama bin Laden. Rather, they're wisely asking whether, 2 decades and several forever wars later, Palestinian statehood would have been a quicker path to peace than a war on terror. The TikTok influencer called Gen T for terrorists, but the terrorism that's motivating Gen Z and the majority of Americans isn't conducted by Hamas. They're motivated by the gruesome images of slain, starving, and injured Palestinians, the 13,000 murdered children, flattened schools, a father collecting pieces of his children in a plastic bag, images that have become ubiquitous on TikTok. These images are shared not because China wants it to be so, but because moral hearts feel compelled to share them as part of an appeal to make it stop.
My girl Brianna Joy goes on for another 15 about the Palestine-Israeli situation. And the reason why they were in the mess that they were in the first place is because of that managed reality, because they were being fed the data and it's not matching up. What's being portrayed or what's being said, they aren't the same thing. There's a disconnect, and the disconnect is on purpose. The disconnect is to cause confusion. That disconnect is so your brain doesn't add 1 + 1 and get 2. It's so that things that you are seeing don't match up with the things that you're hearing. And you can't actually get a clear picture of what's going on. And they know that. They're well aware of it, the manipulation. We have a KGB expert talking about the subversion of America that has been taking place since the 70s. We got my man, well, I ain't gonna say he my man, but he my man because of how he think. You know what I'm saying? I got to respect the knowledge. I respect the knowledge. I'm sorry. Yuri Bezmenov, letting us know how the Soviet media industrial complex gets down. Now roll this clip, and shout outs to my girl Brianna Joy for her brave take and reporting on the situation going on over in Israel. Because of her reporting, she is no longer at the Hill because of the Bra's power runs deep. And as soon as you make too much noise, they will shut your mic off. When the local social gets where we're going, we will absolutely double back on Miss Gray. Let's get into this next clip.
The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism.
This, folks, takes place in the 70s. I don't know exactly when. I mean, I could have did the research, but he talks about disco. So if you're talking about disco, it's in the 70s, plus what it looks like. That's me just guessing. It's 50 years ago, okay? He said it took 20 years for this generation to happen. They started this off before the 70s, and it only took 20 years to be completed. It was completed in the 90s, let's be clear. This thing has been happening. It didn't just start.
The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success.
So yeah, we gotta find out these other guys that he's mentioning. He said they wouldn't have dreamt that it would have been this successful, that they have done some of the best work that they've ever did. That's what he's saying, and he's a little proud. You can see it in how he's talking. He's slightly proud about the situation. It's because it's his work. This is like his life's work that he's talking about, or life's work that he's a part of, because he got like some pizzazz as he's telling us the story.
Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him.
Hey guys, does this sound familiar? I'm not trying to shame anybody. Say it again. I'm not trying to shame anybody. I'm not trying to call anybody out, call anybody names. I'm just asking, does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar when the pandemic was happening, the pandemic was happening, they was telling us things that was absurd and ridiculous, and that the fact that we weren't following them because we were being told ridiculous things? Now do you understand? Now can you put 2 and 2 together and see why you get 3?
Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization.
See, we ain't gonna sit, and my bottom ain't fat, you heard? I got a slim seat, okay? But yeah, this is where we at. This is why we're talking about it right now, because We're not gonna wait until a military boot crashes us on the head. We already live in communist America, huh? That's why we're talking about it. That's why we're trying to get the word out. That's why people know who you are, Mr. Yuri.
The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast.
So, it's already here. It's been here. And what's already here is the idea. Like I said, the last replaces your mind. They can't control what you think yet. And it's already being implemented, these ideologies that you are completely unaware of until now, you feel me? Until your good buddy, your good friend, your neighbor, you feel me? CEO Fox from the Bronx. He's letting you know about it. He's telling you, and he cares, and he wants to talk about the propaganda that's being ran, you feel me? And just make people aware, like, hey, listen, you could question that. That's not bad for you to ask that question.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized."
So the reason why we're showing you this from the 70s, the reason why you need some historical context to what's going on right now is so you can see it didn't just start.
I was born in it.
That you were born in it. So you can understand these words, these plays, these tricks. They aren't news. And if you're educated, if you're aware, you can see the sleight of hand. Now you don't have to do all the research. All you got to do is tune into the Ethos and come check out your boy CEO Fox, what he's talking about. You figure, smell me?
This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not.
Normalized. And now on a more serious note though, they use the same words. They are key words. You just have to be aware of them. You just have to know it when you hear it. You just have to know the reference. If you know, you know. You feel me? I've been talking to content creators a lot in these past couple times because I've become one of y'all. You feel me? I'm making content. I'm happy to be a part of the fight. Today is our 10th episode. And like I said, man, I celebrate my wins, big or small. You feel me? This is I've been making content. You feel me? The blob has directly affected my life. These people have directly affected me in a very casual, God swatting a fly type of way. They've really just knocked me off my socks. So I've decided that I'm gonna tell people about them and I'm gonna make people aware. That's my contribution, making people aware of the powers that be and how they're being it. So thank you for being along in our journey with us. Thank you for being here. To the 10 people that watched the show, you feel me? Appreciate you. Y'all gonna see more of this, more of the silliness, more of the jokes. I don't be talking more. I got more comfortable. You feel me? I done got some more clothes that I got for the set. You feel me? You see I just fixed my glasses with the champagne bottle? We're gonna be doing stuff like this regularly. I would pop this, but they told me not to, right? I was gonna pop the bottle, they told me not to pop it. You feel me? You see the green floor? We doing things in here. We're trying to upgrade. You know what I'm talking about? And that's what you gotta do. You gotta upgrade. You gotta have you upgraded. You gotta always be trying to do better, even if it's a little bit. You feel me? And appreciate y'all. Appreciate the crew here at BronxNet for holding us down. We're gonna celebrate with y'all. Thank you for having us. The local social's mission is to educate our users on their inherent rights, to also protect those inherent rights and redefine the creative landscape by establishing a decentralized agency that champions its users. Because who is this technology supposed to be serving? The end user. This technology should be bettering our lives, not taking from it. We aim to facilitate a seamless transaction between creators and businesses. This mission is rooted in our commitment to foster a more equitable and digital ecosystem where creators can thrive, maintain ownership over their content while engaging in meaningful collaborations with businesses. The local social at its heart is a platform focused on the end user. If you like this episode, comment below. Let us know what you thought. Tell a friend to pull up and gain some knowledge with us.